My guest today is the mistress of monofilament, the duchess of detailed design, and the fearless fabricator of four-legged familiars in the new paranormal. Ladies and gentlemen, ghouls and goblins, please welcome Mikayla Teodoro. Kayla, let's begin with a lightning round. Favorite theatrical show to watch as an audience member?
In the recent years, my favorite show is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Favorite Halloween costume?
When I was 6, I dressed up as McDonald's French fries, and my grandma dressed up as a Big Mac.
How very McMonsterous. Do you own any pets?
I do. I have one dog. She's a schnauzer named Mooney. And I have 2 cats, one named Matisse and the other one named Baguette.
Where do you go to relax?
I grew up in the Philippines, so anywhere near the water is somewhere I like to go to, whether it's a river or a lake, anywhere just near the water.
What was the weirdest request you've ever gotten to make something?
I think in the most recent memory, one of my favorite weird builds was that I had to make a chicken that goes on roller skates for Cirque du Soleil.
Ha! What a foul request. Kayla, how does one even get into the puppet building business?
I got into puppetry, building, designing, making, because before I came to the UK, again, I lived in the Philippines, and I used to be, well, I still am, a set and costume designer primarily. So I did a lot of set and costumes for theater. I also used to do some set and prop supervision. So for any touring companies, I'd help out with sourcing things in the Philippines that they might need. And the first international tour of The Lion King set up in the Philippines. And because of that, that's where I fell in love with puppetry, because it was such a great theme, and they really made me realize that this is something that I wanted to do. So I put up a company in the Philippines. I have a company called Puppet Theater Manila. And we are trying to, make puppetry a bigger thing in the Philippines, because we're the only country in Southeast Asia that doesn't have an ancient form of puppetry, which is very interesting. So with that, I came to the UK to get an MA in puppetry. So I have an MA in puppetry. And yeah, the rest is history. Now I fly back and forth. I do loads of puppetry here for film, TV, stop motion, you name it, I've done it.
How very impressive. I see you have a very distinct style.
Hilariously, I can't deviate from my style no matter how hard I try. So I've ended up just leaning into it really heavily.
I also would lean into it really heavily, but I can't because I'm a ghost and I have no physical body to support me.
Recently, I had to make a skeleton for an opera in Italy.
Oh, a skeleton! That is cute!
When it got to Italy, they said, we need to dirty this down quite a lot. She looks really happy. And I'm like, I'm sorry. There's just no way for me to deviate from that style.
From the ghostly glow of my feed, it looks like 101 Dalmatians is your crown jewel. Care to unearth your role in that cursed canine spectacle?
I worked on Spirited Away, which was the one in Japan. I worked on My Neighbor Totoro, which was really great. I was part of the original making team for the puppets of My Neighbor Totoro, which was really cool because I got to work with Jim Henson's, because those guys made the puppets. The team came over to the UK and we made them alongside each other, which was really fun. But yes, in the recent years, as trying to establish myself here in the UK as a puppet designer, 101 Dalmatians has been taking up quite a lot of my headspace, which has been really great. I'm currently the associate puppet designer. So the main puppet designer is Jimmy Grimes, which has been really cool to work with him because he's just a genius when it comes to mechanisms and trying to figure out how things can move. Like our big dogs, which is Pongo and Purdy, they are puppeteered by one puppeteer, but they're fully articulated. They can pull each, a small movement of the trigger can make them lift a paw. Their heads have mouth triggers, and they can run on their own without having more than one puppeteer, which is a rarity because with animals, for Life Pie or Warhorse, you'd have around 3 puppeteers per animal. What has been really great with Dalmatians is that I'm in charge of all the finishes. Once the mechanism is all set, once everything inside looks good, the puppet is handed to me, and then it's my turn to make it look pretty and make them look presentable for the stage, which has been really fun to play around with textures and, the different breeds of dogs, and of course, studying Dalmatians.
The other day, I spotted an albino Dalmatian. It's the least I could do for it.
When you think Dalmatians, you think 101 Dalmatians, and those Dalmatians are short coats rather than the long-haired Dalmatians. And because of that, in general, a short-haired dog is harder to play around with in terms of finishes because it needs to look clean, like from a distance. So for the Dalmatians, actually, what we used is, and we kept trying to find a good material for it. We used a stretch fabric that you'd use for bandages, and because that stretch is so wide and the weave you can see from afar. And then for all the other dogs, we used a mixture of different fabrics that you could find, like different wools, depending on the breed of dog. And then for all of the fur, depending on the dog, I hand dyed almost all of the...
Hand-dyed?
the fabric.
Do the puppeteers have to make the dogs dance in this show? I can't imagine that's an easy task, since dogs have 2 left feet. Do you have to train your puppeteers on how to operate your Dalmatian buddies?
For any puppet, you would have a puppet director usually in the room, which is Jimmy.
Fascinating.
So, because I'm the associate puppet designer, I didn't work as closely with the actors as he did. But because this is a musical, we needed to make sure that all the puppets were easy to use in terms of puppeteering and manipulating, because they're singing, they're dancing, and they're puppeteering at the same time. So we just had to make sure that all of the puppets were as usable as possible. The cast is usually a mixed bag of people. So we have some people that are really seasoned puppeteers who have come out of like really big shows. And then we also have musical theater people who have never puppeteered in their life. So it's been a nice mix of trying to figure out what was best in terms of how the actors use the puppets and how they're able to move around the stage with them. So while I didn't do a lot of direct contact in terms of the puppet direction, I still took the cast aside one by one to ask them, like, oh, what do you like with your tensions? Because each of them would like different tensions with their triggers, or some people have smaller hands than others, because I have a small hand, and Jimmy, who I work with, has a very big hand. So it's like trying to find that nice middle ground for people who are having to hold the triggers, because everything in those puppets are triggered.
What did the police officer do when he saw a dog giving birth on the side of the road? He gave her a ticket for littering. Any horror stories during production? Technical malfunctions? Perhaps a phantom lurking just off stage?
On the first preview, I was painting one of the puppets in the workshop, which was like 3 floors above the stage.
Ooh.
And I heard on the comms, our stage manager called beginners to stage, which means everyone, it's time to go to stage because the show's about to start.
Oh!
And I was holding one of the puppets as I was spraying it. And one of the stage managers like the puppet technician ran up the stairs. And I was like, don't get this on anyone. And I handed the puppet to him, and immediately the show started and the puppet had to go on stage.
Ooh,
so
what
it was just
rush.
like the fun part of the chaotic part of theater, of like just trying to, like, any edits, trying to micro change things, even up until the very last minute.
Do you have any advice for an aspiring artist wanting to get into the theatrical puppet building biz?
One, I think first really familiarize yourself with, methods of making. It depends on what kind of puppets you're thinking of making. So, for example, something like a Muppet is very, very different to something like one of our Dalmatians. When it comes to breaking into the industry, find the thing that you're most interested in. So, for example, if that's painting or mechanisms, and get really hone into that and try to get really, really good at that, because that's something that makers people that lead teams really look for. Because hardly ever are you making one thing, especially if it's on a big theater show, hardly are you ever making one thing completely on your own. So if you can get really good at the thing you're good at, I think that's one thing. Another thing is find your people. So find people that you like working with. And as a maker, I've learned that, some people are just better at certain things than me. And I have a handful of makers that make essentially everything I work on just because I know they know my brain sometimes better than I know my own brain. It's really tending those relationships and remembering things are fun. I always say that, with puppetry, things aren't the stakes aren't very high with what we do. And if we're just having a good time, then that's the best part. It's obvious when you enjoy your job. And I think if you just find the thing that you enjoy, then that's the best way to really break into the industry.
Excellent advice, Kayla. And now here's my little widget of wisdom. To all you aspiring makers and performers, alive or otherwise, take it from me. If the door to opportunity is locked, just walk through the wall like I do. Thank you, Kayla, for shooting the sheet with me today. My friends, I must ghost you for now. Until next time, goodbye.